Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest challenges in the digital age. How do we, and the companies we work for, actually keep up with the pace of change? The answer you'll see isn't just about fancier software. It's about getting back to the basics of how we learn.
So let's kick things off with a pretty provocative question. In a world where new tools and AI are literally reshaping jobs overnight, is that traditional top-down, classroom-style training model even relevant anymore? I mean, really, is it enough to keep us afloat, or is it fundamentally broken?
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start by digging into the adaptation challenge itself. Then, we'll look at how we're actually hardwired to learn as humans. From there, we'll see how that plays out in the digital world, how to tackle that inevitable resistance to change, and finally, how you can start building a culture that doesn't just survive change, but actually thrives on it.
Okay, first up, the adaptation challenge. Let's really unpack this, because it's more than just learning new skills. It's about surviving, and hopefully thriving, in a workplace that feels like it's in a constant state of flux. The pressure to just keep pace has never been higher.
And the stakes here are incredibly high. We're in this kind of perfect storm of AI disrupting everything, economic uncertainty, and just widespread burnout. Being adaptable is no longer a nice-to-have soft skill. It's a core survival mechanism. And for businesses, the payoff is huge. The ones that get this right, they see way more engaged employees, people stick around longer, and they get a real tangible edge in innovation.
And this all comes down to a concept called worker adaptation. This is really the key competency for any modern professional. It's not about learning one new program. It's about your ongoing ability to constantly tweak your skills, your entire mindset, and even your day-to-day behaviors to meet whatever new challenge comes your way.
So the big question is, how do we get better at this adapting thing? Well, the good news is the answer is actually built right into our human source code. We've just got to understand how to tap into it.
At our absolute core, we are social learners. This is our factory default setting. Think about it. Long before there were classrooms or online courses, how did we learn? We learned by watching, interacting with, and straight up copying the people around us. We're constantly absorbing how to act and solve problems from our peers.
And this isn't just a vague idea. A psychologist named Albert Bandura really nailed it. His social learning theory gives us the perfect framework for understanding exactly how this process works, and more importantly, why it is so incredibly powerful.
Bandura broke it down into 4 really simple steps. First, you have to pay attention. You have to actually notice what someone else is doing. Second, you've got to retain it, remember what you saw. Third, you try to reproduce it, you give it a shot yourself. And finally, and this is key, you need motivation, a reason to do it, which usually comes from seeing the good result someone else got.
Okay, so let's connect this all back to the world you operate in. For you, as future information systems leaders, this is where theory really hits the road, because you're the ones designing these digital ecosystems.
What we're seeing in the digital era is this massive shift away from that rigid, formal training, the scheduled workshop, and a move toward a much more fluid, continuous, informal style of learning. The truth is, most learning at work doesn't happen in a classroom. It happens on the fly, colleague to colleague. And this is where it gets super interesting. Technology acts like a massive amplifier for these natural learning tendencies we have. Digital platforms let us share knowledge with our peers at a massive scale. They let us collaborate in real time across continents. And they even use algorithms to push useful information our way that we never would have found on our own.
This totally changes the game. It means learning isn't some separate activity you have to schedule anymore. It's embedded right into the tools we use every single day. You learn when you ask a quick question on Slack. You learn when you observe a cleaner way to code on GitHub. You learn when you watch a 5-minute YouTube tutorial. The learning is happening right inside the workflow.
But as anyone who has ever been part of a big system rollout knows, you can have the best tool in the world, and it can still hit a massive wall of human resistance. So how do we use social learning as the antidote to that?
It is so important to remember that this resistance isn't just people being stubborn. It's usually driven by very real, very legitimate fears. People are afraid of being made obsolete by AI. They have anxiety about not having the skills to keep up. And you're fighting against the incredible power of, well, this is how we've always done things.
Social learning cuts right through this. Just think about it. The simple act of watching a colleague, someone you trust, successfully use a new tool instantly makes it less scary. That big abstract fear of the unknown just starts to melt away when you see it working in a real context, right there at the next desk.
And what this does is it builds confidence in a way no formal training ever could. Seeing a peer, someone just like you, figure out a new system sends this powerful subconscious message. Hey, if they can do it, I can probably do it too. It's an incredible confidence booster.
And then a really cool thing happens. You create this positive feedback loop. One person feels safe enough to ask for help, they get a quick answer, and that encourages 2 more people to do the same. This peer support network makes adoption happen organically, and it's way more effective than any top-down mandate will ever be.
So this brings us to the most crucial point, especially for you. How can you, as the architects and leaders of your organization's information systems, intentionally design an environment that actually encourages all of this?
Well, the blueprint is actually pretty straightforward. It comes down to 3 core actions. First, enable sharing. Give people the right platforms and get rid of any barriers. Second, encourage learning. Don't just talk about it, model the behavior yourself and protect people's time so they can actually do it. And maybe most important of all, you have to build psychological safety. Create a culture where it's okay to ask questions, it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to fail, because that's where the real learning happens.
Because at the end of the day, the technology is just an enabler. It's just the tool. The most powerful, the most advanced, and the most resilient tool any organization can possibly have is a team that knows how to learn together. So the real question is, how are you going to build yours?